Hello, I'm Shit Pete, and it's time for another DayZ Doodle Rant. I'm sure you're all having as much fun on the early access alpha as I am, so let's get talking about it. So now that we've all got our hands on a game, we've now seen the systems that Rocket's talking about, and this rant isn't going to really focus on bugs or things that I think are going to get patched away anyway. We know we're going to get more zombies and more guns eventually. I want to focus on more interesting ideas for the future. So I'd like to congratulate Rocket on a successful early release. Anyway, I think it was a successful early release. I'm loving the game. The first time I ever found a pair of green cargo pants, I just about jizzed myself into next week. And I can totally see with the groundwork that's been laid, this is going to build into a brilliant game. There's so many smart ideas, the damage degradation, the whole different blood types, the sickness is really fun to try and treat illnesses. I'm loving it. Which brings me to the first thing that I'd like to see implemented, which is the ability to be able to move bodies. Not particularly dead people, but unconscious people. I've had numerous situations in the standalone so far where I just wish I could have loaded this person onto my back. Maybe if it meant dropping my backpack, I would load up my hoodie and my jeans with a few essentials, and then I'd try and carry them to the next town. Maybe this isn't a system that can be implemented with the new architecture, but even if it was just the ability to either put someone over your shoulder or drag them along behind you, or ideally I'd love the system where if they're conscious you can support them and carry them along like a friggin' war film. I really think that something that would be beneficial for the unconscious system is the chance to fade in and out of consciousness. Not enough so that you can move, just so you can have a few split seconds to communicate with someone what's wrong with you and whether you actually need help, just so I don't end up wasting medical supplies on someone who's died on purpose to try and get a better spawn, which has happened to me too many times. When I'm running around DayZ now, even more so than the mod, I feel like I'm running around in Fallout, which I can't think of any better compliment to DayZ than comparing it to Fallout. The only difference being on Fallout, where you can pick any direction and walk in it and you know something fun's going to happen to you. In DayZ, the further away you run from the coast, the less likely something fun is to happen to you. I really think some sort of random aspect needs to be added. Maybe it's a storm rolling in and that forces you to rethink the clothing you're wearing, a zombie horde, or a temperature change, which means you're going to get cold and you're going to get sick. Just some sort of random aspect. I don't think enough value was placed on the helicopter crashes in the DayZ mod. They really added this sense of excitement and anticipation of what was over the next hill. If you play as an explorer and a scavenger like me, they were an essential part of what made the game compelling and added some longevity of, I want to circle this map over and over because I know I'm going to find this random aspect that no one else is going to have found and that I got there first. I'm sure I remember Rocket saying that this wasn't a possibility or it's a long way off being their top priority, because it's let's face it, it's not a high priority, is it? But it's just something to keep in mind for the future, because to me it's what DayZ is about. It's about that random exploration, and even if it was a military convoy crashed at the side of the road that randomly spawned, or a train wreck that randomly spawned, just something that would sort of focus people on the roads and the railways around Chernarus and add more exciting encounters, because everybody travelling through the woods means no fun. One of my current pet peeves with the standalone is the lack of communication between people. Once you get in close, everyone's too jumpy. They feel like they're going to be pounced upon or shot or sniped or hit with an axe from behind. So people are less likely to communicate. And out in the open, there are just as many problems. You see a guy running, you want to communicate, he can't hear you because he's too far away. You push over this open field to try and communicate with him. He turns around, sees someone running over an open field at him, shoots you down. There's nothing you can do. That's why I like the thought of an emote that you can buy into a key that brings both of your character's hands to his mouth, and then whatever you say in direct chat, the range gets doubled. Just like your character's shouting, but it can't be exploited because you're putting yourself into a vulnerable position by putting your hands up like that, because you haven't got an axe out or a weapon. Just something to allow a bit more communication over a bit of a longer distance without being too easily exploited. I just love the thought of being on a roof in Cherno, maybe you've broken your leg and you're putting your hands to your mouth screaming out for help. Along the lines of communication, I've always loved the radio towers in DayZ and using them as sort of points of interest to navigate my way around, but they don't really have a use. I'm not sure if when walkie-talkies are implemented, like they might have a use, like maybe down in deep ravines you can't use your walkie-talkie, but when you're in range of one of these transmitters, maybe they're even not radio towers and I'm an idiot and they're sort of microwave dish transmitters, but I would really like them to be a more vital part of the game. Like maybe you're down south, you need some help, you've broken your leg, maybe you can get to one of these radio towers, and down the bottom there's a small generator and a small radio transmitter that you can then ask for help to anybody who's got a walkie-talkie. Maybe even people who have walkie-talkies need to come to these places to sort of check the frequency or something, and then you can use them as a point of interest in that regard. Maybe even walkie-talkies have a chance of spawning at these places. I really love that every YouTuber's video I've watched, everybody has their own interpretation of when antibiotics should be used, when blood should be used, when saline should be used. And I really like that sort of layman's trying to use the medical system. So I really hope Rocket doesn't go into too much information, or he doesn't broadcast too much on the player inventory screen what's exactly wrong with you. You just have to kind of try and figure these things out. Hopefully there'll be more audio and visual cues later on so you can actually diagnose these things. But I really like the way it works at the moment. The only thing that I like that I've thought of is that when your blood's low, your screen goes desaturated or whatever, or maybe it gets brighter depending on whatever people think happens when you're low on blood. You know that part in Saving Private Ryan where the bombs are going off and people's limbs are being blown off and you assume the guy's in shock or whatever, but the sounds sort of fade away and you just get that faint ringing. I'd really like damage to your health to be displayed in that way, sort of like you're suffering from shock, so you can differentiate between the two ailments of losing health and losing blood, or being in shock after being shot, which I think will probably lead to some funny accidents where people are suffering from shock and they can't communicate during direct chat and they just start shooting by accident and accidentally shoot their friend. One of the things I love about DayZ is when you meet this big group of survivors and everybody's got their own little items and they all use them and prefer them in different ways. That guy's got a shotgun, that guy's got a Winchester, that guy's got a sniper rifle, that guy wants a ghillie, this guy wants to look like a hero. And we're getting there with the whole clothing system, but I really want that sort of versatility to the weapons as it is, because at the moment I think just generally the best melee weapon is a fire axe, and why would you have anything other than a fire axe? It kills in like one hit. But I really want there to be that versatility to weapons as well. I want you to be able to choose what you prefer. For instance, maybe knives, when you stab people with them, requires double the amount of bandages for people to recover. So you can do this sort of hit and run slash tactic and wait for someone to bleed out. Maybe they're more stealthy because they make less noise when you're walking around with them. Maybe you can have a pistol in one hand and a knife in the other. Much like later on, we're going to presumably have bayonets on the end of our guns that can be used as stabbing implements. Maybe when you've got a pistol out, you can have a knife in one hand and a pistol in the other, that you can switch between those two. Or perhaps you can smear your knife blade or your bayonet in poison, and then when you stab people and break the skin, you then can run away knowing that eventually they're going to pass out with very little damage happen to the items that they're carrying. Maybe if you're like me and you prefer the idea of knocking people out and not killing them, then we should be able to choose a baseball bat and it does more shock damage. I think that might be the case, but at the moment it seems like there's no reason to carry a baseball bat. As soon as you find an axe, either a splitting or a fire axe, you might as well go with those. And I know that's realistic, maybe they would be the most damaging things, but I really would like to see a mishmash of people using different weapons because they prefer the different play styles. I know people will jump down my throat for suggesting this, but we know there's a system in place now where when you have an item in your hands, you can walk up to someone and activate a scroll wheel. Is there any chance we could do that with knives in our hands and activate an assassination? Maybe hold someone up and hold a knife to their throat from behind? Just an idea. Right, so there's my Doodle Rant. It's been a while since I've done one of these, so I'm going to have to get back into practice. I've got a lot of things that I want to talk about as far as the standalone goes in the future, and I'll probably do a lot more of these. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. And before I go, I want you guys to try and help me think up a new sort of hero skin within the game, along the lines of an iconic outfit that we can all find and loot and put on our characters, that we as a community recognise that is the new DayZ hero skin, that person is friendly. From afar we can tell that he's friendly. So tell me your ideas, maybe even link to pictures or screenshots you've taken of your characters. Do it! There you go, thanks for watching. Like if you like, sub if you love. And if I don't ever see you again, have a good life, won't you? Alright then, bye.